Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the refreshed iMacs that recently came out. They're going to include pretty much like the 8th gen processor. They do have the 4K screen, of course, but there is something that does kind of bother me a little bit that I do want to talk about. So if we scroll down here, we're on actually the 21-inch page, and which is I think is fine because look, you're paying $1,300. So let's see what you can actually get for the base model of the 4K one. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the specs just for the 21-inch. So for $1,300, the base model in 2019, you do get the looks like it comes with that nice 4K display. The new 8th gen Intel, which is actually much better. I do know it's an with an i3 to start with. And if you even look at this one back here, the one from last gen, it comes with the 7th gen Intel for i5. This one comes with the 8th gen Intel i3 processor, which is a pretty big deal. I do know there's a little bit more cores and threads in the newer 8th gen models, but for a $1,300 iMac with a 4K display, they're giving you an i3. On top of that, you get 8 gigs of RAM, which is 2400 megahertz, which is pretty good. They should give you 16, honestly, for spending 1300, but that's besides the point. We'll take a look at the upgrades. But so anyway, you also get a 1 terabyte hard drive. Now this 1 terabyte hard drive is a mechanical hard drive, and that is a 5400 RPM. A 5400 RPM is at least, man, it's definitely pretty old. I mean, it could be going back at least 20-30 years old, the technology in that. Now granted, it is a 1 terabyte, but man, from a perspective of the user experience, how they kind of really push that, and that's the #1 thing. One of the best things you can do for any type of old laptop, any old desktop, you would definitely want to go with a solid state drive. I mean, they could at least give you a 256 and maybe a mechanical one as well, but to put your operating system on there, to put all your data, all your information on there. So let's go take a look at the customizations you can get. So let's select this one. So the 4K, this is the base model. Okay, so you can only get an i3, and if you want to get an i7 you have to pay $300 extra to get the i7 8th gen. I would assume the i7 is going to be an 8700, not 8700K, but 8700. It's a very nice processor, and the $300 is very. I mean, I guess from going from an i3, you can't even get an i5 option. You just have to jump to the 300. I think that's absurd too. You can't even get the i5 option, maybe even for an extra $100, which would totally be worth it. And I think most people would want to spend an extra $100 to get the i5. To get double the memory, $200. That's a lot. That's pretty expensive. You should be getting 16 anyway. So most people are going to need at least the 16 gig, just for user experience and just for it to be a little bit nicer. But here, this is my big problem here, and this is absolutely absurd. So if you get it even says it. They even have the audacity to say that it's a 0 ATA drive at 5400 RPM. 5400 RPM is extremely slow, and like we said before, that is a very, very old technology. Now you're thinking, well, an extra $100 to get the Fusion drive. The Fusion drive isn't honestly that much better. They still have the same problems mechanical drives do have as far as failure rate goes. So you probably we want to at least go to an SSD here. They should be putting a 256 SSD with a 1 terabyte. Honestly, for even an extra $100 more, or at least keep it that same price. I know they really want to touch on the $12.99 price, but even if you look here, to go from a 1 terabyte mechanical to 1 terabyte SSD, it's $800. $800. Now, if you look at the prices of flash storage nowadays, you do know that it has dropped quite a bit. And this again is just for a 21-inch Mac, but again for $1,300, your entry level, the user experience is what this is all about. Most people are going to be buying at least the entry level, or maybe upgrading a little bit. But to not even put a solid state drive, I mean, to charge $200 extra for a quarter of the storage, and for a solid state drive, I mean, they could at least do it. Maybe I really think they should just put in a 256 and a 1 terabyte. I think that'd be very reasonable. So you have two hard drives. You have one for storage, and then you have one for all your OS and everything. Because of course, if this 1 terabyte crashes, if this 1 terabyte fails, how are you going to replace it? The glass is extremely difficult to remove, and it's very easy to break it. Most repair shops are going to have trouble removing it safely and even putting it back in. So right then and there, you're taking a huge risk. It's going to cost a fortune for the user to do that. And of course, if you want to upgrade even further than that, then you pretty much are stuck with these options here. It's almost worth the investment, honestly, to get, if you need an iMac specifically, to get the storage that you need right away. Even though it's absurdly expensive, and to even pay like $14.99 just for a 256 entry-level 4K iMac is absurd. But anyways, let's go check out actually the 27-inch. And if you check out the 27-inch, if you look at the base model just right off the bat, at least you get the i5, which we just talked about, which is good. You get the 8 gigs, which is good too. And in this case, you get a 1 terabyte Fusion drive. They still can't put an SSD in there. It's a little bit better. But this one, I guess we can kind of let slide a little bit because it's not just the regular mechanical drive. But yeah, so that's just kind of a little rant. I just kind of want to educate some people on that. For $12.99 in 2019, you are getting a 1 terabyte 5400 RPM hard drive. The mechanical drives, you can be very good for years, but if you checked out one of our last videos, we actually did a 2010, we put an SSD in there. And the price is right, you know, to go with that. If you do have an older iMac that doesn't have that glued screen, that's definitely the way to go. Maybe just upgrade that one. And if you can take the speed of the i7 or i5 in there, it's still good enough for you. And you don't need a whole lot of RAM, because I know the old ones you can do. If you check out the old video we did, we actually put 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD in there. We can show you how to do that. And of course, the price is right. It's much better than these prices, unless you really need that top of the line i7, or unless you really want that 4K display. But even the 2010 one we did, it has a 1440p display, which is still very excellent. I think it's kind of an insult to even their whole customer base. You're putting all their trust in someone that really pushes the customer experience. A solid state drive is the #1 thing to do in any computer. And even you have it in your phones, you have their flash storage. It's a very similar. Of course, it's not quite as fast, but the experience is very fluid. And if you ever have an old laptop that's very slow, most of the time it's part of a hard drive, unless you get one of those super old AMD ones, or super old Celeron or Pentiums. Usually those weren't too great, but usually if you have an i5 or above and you see just a big slowdown in your laptop or even computer, one of the best things to do is just put an SSD in there, you know, and that will change your life. Like, you'll notice the difference. It'll feel like you paid $1,300, honestly. So anyways, that's it. Please leave a comment if you see anything else actually with Apple's website, or if you want to give a comment just about what I'm talking about too. Please leave a comment below. Like the video, subscribe. We have other content. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say too. Yep, so that's it. And thanks very much for watching. You guys have a good one.